It's a very simple melody. It accompanies the words of Shalom Aleichem, and in the meantime, I'm going to ask you to try to hum them with me. And if you don't know them, just tag along and we'll do it together. Well, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Welcome to Pasadena Jewish Temple and Center to celebrate Shabbat, but also to celebrate our friend Ella as she has become bat mitzvah and has prepared to help us lead services and teach Torah in ways that only Jewish adults can do. And now you are one. So we're very delighted to have you help us out. A couple things you should know before we get started. This is a safe community, and we really appreciate everybody abiding by all the posted and emailed and telepathically transferred safety signals and things like that. We love it when you're in this space, if you can have your mask over your mouth and nose the whole time. Hey, what about you, Rabbi? Well, turns out we've been in kind of a bubble for a lot of this, and so when we're over here, we're way away from you. And if you want to come up and lead something during part, well, not if you've been asked to come up and lead something, this is much better organized than that. Then you could take your mask off while you're in front of the microphone, and we'll mask up, and we're going to try to keep everybody safe. That's the procedures we figured out. If you are vaccinated, thank you for doing that mitzvah for yourself, for your family, and for the world. But it's not just a safe community. And also, just one more thing. If you need a mask break, totally understand. If you need to get up and get some fresh air outside and leave any part of the service, you will not offend us in the least. And say hi to the peacocks. I think I hear them out there sometimes. So. But in addition to a safe community, it's also a musical community. You'll hear a lot of music during this service. We really hope that you will be part of that music during this service. We have some songs like the cantor was leading us in that have no words, which means everybody knows the words. So feel free to hum along. If you catch the rhythm, tap on your prayer book. At home, play your bongos, clarinet, you do you. Sometimes I do my best singing when I'm on mute, so please join us that way. And even if we can't hear you, we can feel your presence. So please join us in making music tonight and tomorrow as well. Last thing, one of the nice benefits of having these multi-access services where we're live streaming on different platforms is that nobody has to record or take pictures of anything. It's all just handled. And that means that if you have some kind of electronic recording or photographing device, you can tuck that away safely, preferably in quiet or silent mode, and be fully present in this space, and you won't miss out on a single moment. So take advantage of that. We'd really appreciate it. With that, I'd like to stop talking about singing and start actually doing some singing. So once again, just thank you for being here in Shabbat Shalom, and let's get on with the service. Where we start, we're going to start. That song that you were singing goes to Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem is this wonderful song that we have to welcome in Shabbat, and it's if you have one of these prayer books, it's on page 13. Yes, and if you have the transliteration, the thin ones, you can look at the pages at the bottom of the booklet and you will find the same prayer. I invite you to the ones on top. Oh, thank you, Leah. If you have the translation book, you pay attention to the pages at the top of the page and not the bottom. And they're matched up to this one.
Yes. So I encourage you and invite you to take a moment to let this nigun, this melody carry you. You can close your eyes and come along. You can intentionally say goodbye to the week that just ended and allow yourself to be present.
Shalom Alechem, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Limelech, Malachei Hamlakim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Vachem Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech, Malachei Hamlakim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Huni LeShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech, Malachei Hamlakim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech, Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And just as we increase the sound in our homes and in our hearts, we also increase the light as we enter Shabbat. And it's my great honor to call up Lori Winterman, Ella's grandmother, to say the blessing over the Shabbat candles, and I believe is going to share something as well.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kedishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'hadlak ner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
I am bringing the light and the love from these candles for all of us and my family to honor my granddaughter and open the windows to the world with light.
Beautiful. Thank you. Shabbat Shalom. So part of the ways we ascend in this time as we kind of work our way up out of the mundanity and the schmutz of the work week into the holiness and the joy of Shabbat is by climbing a kind of ladder. A sulam in Hebrew means ladder. It's the ladder that Jacob dreamed about on his way to starting a new life. But sulam, ladder, is also the same word in Hebrew for a musical scale. And so we use song to help us ascend. And specifically for Shabbat, we have a number of psalms from our poet King David, but we also have some traditional songs of medieval composition and some new tunes as well. We're going to start with Lechuna Ranana on page 15. Page 15. Lechuna Ranana, Lechuna Ranana, Lechuna Ranana, Adonai. Lechuna Ranana, Lechuna Ranana, Lechuna Ranana, Adonai. Nadia, Nadia, Letzur Yishenu, Nekadma Hana Betoda. Nadia, Nadia, Letzur Yishenu, Bizmiro Nadia Lo. Lechuna Ranana, Lechuna Ranana, Lechuna Ranana, Adonai. Lechuna Ranana, Lechuna Ranana, Lechuna Ranana, Adonai. Asher nisun yamtechem, v'atchuni gam ro'ani. Hakut b'adon. Shir Chadash, Shiru Ladonai, Kol Haaretz. Shiru Ladonai, Naku Shemom, Machru Meyom Leyom, Yeshuato, Maskru Agoyim Kevodo, Vechol Ha'amim Niflotav, Ki Gadol Adonai, Hulam Meyom. Al kol Elohim ha'chai, yai da da da, 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 yai da da da. One of the later musical compositions and poetic compositions for this part of our service comes from the Middle Ages, comes from the Kabbalists of Sfat, merely 500 years ago or so. who imagine Shabbat coming in like watching somebody in a wedding walking down the aisle or being visited by royalty. And what you say both to this honored guest and this intimate friend is welcome, my beloved. And another way of saying that is Lecha Dodi. And we're going to start the song Lecha Dodi on page 22 at the top.
Valley goes again.
Hadodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nekabela lechadodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nekabela lo tevoshi ולא תחמי, מה תשתוכחי ומה תהמי. בך יחסו אני ונבנתה, הרעלתי לה לך דודי, לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה שועסאי לרחקו קומב עלייך, יסיס עלייך, אלוהייך, ימסוס חתן, הכלה, לך דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת, נקבלה. לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה
ימינו שמאל
תפרוצי בית אדוני תריצי אל ידיש בין פרצי ונשמחה נגילה להדודי. Please rise. לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה להדודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה. בואי בשלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה. תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה. נכדודי לקראת כלה פני שבת nekabela lechadodi likrat kala tenei Shabbat nekabela lechadodi likrat kala tenei Shabbat nekabela lechadodi likrat kala tenei Shabbat nekabela. You may be seated. In a moment, I'm going to call up Sadie to help us with something. So Sadie, if you want to come on up to the front. I just want to give a little explanation in case there's anybody here who this is your first time in a Shabbat service. That often happens at B'nai Mitzvah celebrations. Why is it that we stand up and turn and face that way? Not even like toward the back, but turn that way for Lachadodi, or for Lachadodi.
Because we're looking at the door to welcome the bride, like as a way of honoring.
Right, it's like it's embodying this, it's making visible what's invisible. It's embodying this feeling. It's also, so that's what we're doing. We're sort of turning to welcome Shabbat as if Shabbat is coming in at that very moment. Fun fact, it's also a good reason never to come to shul late on Friday night. As somebody who has walked into a synagogue right as everybody was standing up and turning around to face the door, trust me. So there's another part of this service. Just before we end this welcoming of Shabbat part of our service, we like to say a special psalm designated for Shabbat. In Sefer Tehillim, it says, this is the psalm for Shabbat. And we have the honor of having Sadie Moss lead us. So Sadie, you're 11, yes? And you're in our Louis B. Silver Religious School? We're calling up somebody from the farm team to join us this evening, and I can't wait to hear you lead us. Everybody else, we are on page 23.
Go ahead.
And it's one more thing. It's responsive, so you're going to lead it, and then we're going to answer you. Is that correct? Excellent. Okay.
It is good to acclaim Adonai, to sing your praise, exalted God.
To affirm your love each morning and your faithfulness each night, to the music of the lute and the melody of the harp.
Your works, Adonai, make me glad. I sing with joy of your creation.
Works Adonai, your designs are beyond our grasp.
The thoughtless cannot comprehend, the foolish cannot fathom this.
But their doom is sealed, for you are supreme forever.
Your enemies, Adonai, your enemies shall perish. All the wicked shall crumble.
But me you have greatly exalted. I am anointed with fragrant oil. I have seen the downfall of my foes. I have heard the despair of my attackers.
The righteous shall flourish like the palm tree. They shall grow like tall like a cedar in Lebanon. Planted in the house of Adonai, they will thrive in the courts of our God.
And bear fruit even in old age. They shall be ever fresh and fragrant, to proclaim Adonai is just, my rock, in whom there is no flaw. Yeshakach. Well done, Sadie. Thank you. Now, there's also a musical version of this psalm, and so if you stay on page 23, but kind of the facing page in Hebrew, let's sing it together. Mizmor shir leyom haShabbat, tov lehodot Adonai, uzamer l'shimcha elyon, uzamer l'shimcha elyon. Mizmor shir leyom haShabbat, tov lehodot Adonai, ולזמר לשמחה העליון, לזמר לשמחה העליון. כי בבוקר חסדך מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמחה העליון, לזמר לשמחה העליון. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמחה העליון, לזמר לשמחה העליון. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמחה העליון, לזמר לשמחה העליון, לזמר לשמחה Well, Shabbat Shalom, everybody, once again. If you're just joining us, welcome to Pasadena Jewish Temple and Center. We're delighted to have you here. We're delighted to have you there, however you're getting here, whether in the room or on the Zoom. We're just grateful that you're celebrating with us and you're in the right place and more than welcome. Just want to pause for a few brief words of Torah before we continue with the service. Tonight, I'm going to be talking about a few of my favorite things. I often say that one of my favorite parts of my job is preparing for what we're doing right now, specifically preparing for what we're going to do a little bit later in the service tomorrow, and that's working with students who are about to celebrate B'nai Mitzvah, prepare their Devar Torah, because I love seeing Torah through fresh eyes. That's one of my favorite things. In fact, there was another student, not you. I like you, but there was this other kid, and he has Parashat Mishpatim. And Parashat Mishpatim, it's not my favorite parsha. My favorite parsha is Balak, but that's a long story. It's got a talking donkey in it. But it has my favorite verse in the whole Torah. And in fact, I asked him, I was like, hey, you've got the parsha with my favorite verse. Your homework this week is to figure out what it is. You look through the parsha and you tell me what you think is my favorite verse. And if you've been here more than 3 times, you probably know my favorite verse in Parashat Mishpatim. V'ger lo tilchatz, v'atem yadatem et nefesh hager ki gerim hayetem be'eretz Mitzrayim. I'll translate for the closed captioning system here. You shall not oppress a stranger. And you know what that's like, because you were strangers in the land of Egypt. This speaks to me on a number of different levels, some of which we'll touch on tonight. But that's not the verse he picked. He said, I think I got it, Rabbi. It's Exodus 23:19. And I said, you shall not cook a baby goat in its mother's milk. Nice try. Some days, especially when I'm hungry, it's my least favorite verse. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. And so I will say of Parashat Vayigash, it's not my favorite. But I will tell you there is a verse in Parashat Vayigash, which is my very favorite verse in Parashat Vayigash, our reading for this week. And maybe, more than I think about it, maybe my favorite verse in the book of Genesis. And it's also, coincidentally, tied into my favorite Frank Capra movie. And I won't tell you what it is, but it's very popular right now. It's getting a lot of airplay this time of year. It's my favorite because it is the narrative, in my mind, it's the narrative pinnacle of the story of Joseph. And Joseph is a big story. Joseph is thought to be the longest continuous narrative in the book of Genesis. It covers several different parshiot, and we're just arriving at the big reveal, right? The big moment that's not just narratively climactic, but morally climactic as well. The whole of the story comes to a single point, a pixel in its parsimony that reveals a mountain of meaning. It's also a surprise. It's a surprise that's not just a literary turn, but a moral turn, and one of the greatest theological statements that I think we have. And it's in Genesis in chapter 45, starting around verse 4. We'll get some backstory tomorrow, but just so you know, Joseph is the second most powerful man in Egypt. And he's been in Egypt for about 22 years now. And finally, he's just about to reveal to his brothers, who threw him in a pit to die, that he now holds their life in his hands. There are lots of different ways this story could go. Joseph said to his brothers, "I'm Joseph. Is my father still well?" It's the first thing he says to these guys when they know who he is. And they're struck dumb. And so he decides to explain a little bit more. Because as soon as they figure out who he is, they are afraid for their lives. And he says, "Come forward to me." And when they came forward, he said, "I am your brother Joseph, whom you sold into Egypt." Now, here's the turn. Now, do not be distressed, nor reproach yourselves, because you sold me hither. He's just said it twice now. He's kind of rubbing it in a little bit. But he says, do not be distressed. Don't beat yourselves up. It was to save life that God sent me ahead of you. Imagine being a child. Well, I don't think he was probably pretty big when this happened, but the baby of the family almost. The second, not even the baby of the family. Baby of the family gets a lot of love. I say that about my people. The baby of the family gets a lot of love. He is the second. He's sort of he's really low on the totem pole. And his brothers throw him in a pit. And he spends 13 years in prison. Spends 13 years a slave, several years in prison. It's 22 years. And he says to them, "Don't be afraid because of what you did to send me here. God sent me here. You came here because of famine. I happen to know there's 5 years of famine left. You're coming with me. We're bringing you from Canaan into Egypt so that you may live." That was God's plan this whole time. And what I love the most is that the story of a dreamer invites us to dream. And here's where Frank Capra comes in. If anybody doesn't know, I'm talking about the movie It's a Wonderful Life. I know as a rabbi, I probably shouldn't say that this is one of my favorite movies. As a Jew, I know I'm not alone. because this man dreams what his life would have, what the world would have been like without him, a counter life in Philip Roth's terms, how things might have been different. I'm suffering so much, how might things have been different? And then he realizes that because of that suffering, he has saved so many people. And he realizes the blessing of the life that he has. Joseph invites us to dream. Whatever hardships you've had, whatever downfalls you've had, things that you wish hadn't happened, decisions you wish you hadn't made, dream of the life without them, but also what blessings you have now that you wouldn't have. I used to regret that as a financial analyst, I wasn't very good. I was sad because it wasn't fulfilling work. I regretted that it wasn't more fulfilling work. I don't regret that anymore. I don't regret the times that I suffered, that it helped me figure out what was the right path. There's lots of painful moments in my life, and I bet there's painful moments in your life too that had that change not happened, things would be very different in ways that you wouldn't wish for. There are those who dream big dreams. And in chasing those dreams, we suffer. But in reaching those dreams, we can help other dreamers. Besides Joseph, when has this happened in our community? When have dreamers struggled and then helped others? I understand that many years ago in Pasadena, there were members of this synagogue who sponsored a couple named Celia and Herman coming from Poland, fleeing the ashes of the Shoah. And then Celia and her husband Herman then paid it forward and sponsored two guys, Celia's brothers, named Ike, Itzik, and Sam Langholtz. Because people in this congregation who had themselves fled tragedy, probably at some point, had made it, they turned around and they helped other dreamers. A friend Ruth tells me that her family didn't know what a Pasadena was, but there were people in this area that sponsored her family to come here as well. Had people not made that choice, had people not looked upon their suffering and said, maybe God put me here not to cry about it. Well, I'll cry about it a little. But maybe God had put me here not to teach others to regret this moment, but to save life. And they did. That was then. What can we do now? I don't think we're done dreaming. We have a Jewish journey, many families who came from the pits of Germany of the 19th century, Germany of the 20th century, the Pale of Settlement in the 19th and 20th century, moving from the former Soviet Union to Israel in the 20th century. And through our travail, knowing what it's like to be that stranger, we've gained an unprecedented vantage point and an unprecedented opportunity to help. There is an organization called HIAS that's it's a Jewish organization that helps refugees to this day. And in their founding, the zeitgeist was this. They said, look, people helped us because we were Jewish. Today, we need to help others. Why? Because we're Jewish. And Hayas has been in the refugee helping work for a long time now, but highlights our attention that in this country, there are over 50,000 refugees from Afghanistan. 50,000. And they're scattered at military bases around this country, living in the barracks. And they're safe, but they're not home. And so Hayas has put together a program, Circles of Welcome, or Welcome Circles, that allow congregations like ours to help settle families in more permanent situations. And as it happens, our Social Justice Committee is starting the work of helping our congregation and maybe in our broader community become one of these welcoming circles. And so what I want you to do tonight, you don't have to sign up for anything, you don't have to look up anything. It's Shabbat, relax, celebrate. We're here for a simcha. But there's also a green piece of paper on the table outside. And if you want to grab it and take a look at it, we're in the stage of having people think about volunteering. Right? There are specific kinds of things for a significant commitment, but looking for specific skills. People who know navigate the landlord system, people who have done social work or know people who've done social work. Right? Lots of different skills. And to be clear, I'm not asking anybody for money. You probably hear enough of that around this time of year, even from us. All I'm asking you to do is look to the story of Joseph. Look to the story of a dreamer who travailed and made it and said, maybe that travail was God putting me here so that I could save life. So in closing, I just want you to, for a moment, dream. Dream of the counter life had you never suffered. But remember all the blessings that you have because you've lived the story that you've lived. And ask yourself, was it to save life that God brought me here? I know from our Parsha what Joseph's answer is. I close by asking, what's ours? Shabbat Shalom, and thank you for joining us here at Pasadena Jewish Temple and Center. We're now going to continue our Mariv prayer service that begins with our call to blessing, the Baruch Hu. We rise and face the ark for the Baruch Hu, and we start it on page 28. Page 28. Baruch Adonai Amvarach Leolam Vaed. Baruch Adonai Melech HaMashiach. El Chai V'Kayam. Baruch Shemo. Amen. You may be seated. We continue on page 29. Page 29, we've blessed God for the light God brings to our world, and now we bless God for the constancy of God's love. Ahavat Olam, page 29. Yisrael. Avta, avta, ama, avta. Torah u'mitzvot, hukim u'mishpatim, otanu limadeta, otanu limadeta. Umenu Messiach bechukecha, Nizmah b'divrei Torotecha, u'b'mitzvotecha le'olam va'en. Ki hem hayenu ve'orech yameinu, uvachem nege yomam v'layla, nege yomam v'layla. V'dahavata tasir mimenu le'olamim, Ukata Adonai ohev amo Yisrael, ohev amo Yisrael. Amen. On page 30, Ella will lead us in the Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך.
And continue at your own pace in the middle of page 30. We'll get back together in just a moment. I am Shemot Yishmael Mitzvotai. We join together at the top of page 31. Page 31. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe lemor, daber el bnei Yisrael, ve'amarta lehem, v'asu lehem tzitzit, al kanfei vigdehem ledorotam, v'natnu al tzitzit hakanaf, petil techelet, v'haya lachem letzitzit, uritem oto, uzkartem et kol mitzvot Adonai, v'asitem otam, ve'lo taturu acharei lebavchem, v'acharei nechem, asher atem zonim achareichem, leman tizkaru, v'asitem et kol mitzvotai, v'item kedoshim lelochechem, ani Adonai Elochechem, asher chotzeti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, liot lachem lelohim, ani Adonai Elohechem emet, ve'emon kozovim. On page 32, page 32.
Let's join together in the middle of the page with Micha Mocha.
Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha neda b'kodesh. Nora tehilot osefet osefele. Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha neda b'kodesh. Nora tehilot osefele, nora tehilot osefele. Adonai imlok leolam va'ed.
ונאמר כפניו ראיתי הכל, וביעלו יחזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני
Baruch Shemo.
ישראל.
Amen. I'd now like to invite up Ella's grandmother, Martha Murphy, who is going to share a reading with us. The reading is from Hashkivenu on page 33, page 33.
Protect us with your gift of peace by helping us to overcome temptation.
When we are weak, sustain us. When we despair, open our hearts to joy.
Shelter us in your embrace of peace when we are caught by conflict or desire.
When we are torn, heal us. When we are tormented, touch us with tranquility.
Cherish our fragmented lives. Make our lives whole again through integrity.
When we deceive, turn us to you. When we corrupt, capture our hearts anew.
Protect us from ourselves. When we falter, help us to conquer the enemy within.
When we blunder, restore us. With compassion, teach us that peace is based on your truth. Yesh koach, well done. We're now going to look at the facing page 33, Hashkivenu, and sing the prayer together. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom vehamidenu malkeinu lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom vehamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Ushmor tzeitenu uvoleinu lechaim uleshalom me'ata ve'ad olam. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom ve'hamidenu malkeinu lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom ve'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Shalom, 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 shalom. Shemo.
הפורס סוכת שלום עלינו ואל כל עמו ישראל ולירושלים.
Amen. Turn to page 34, page 34.
Let's join together.
Veshamru b'nei Yisrael. Shabbos. Bnei Yisrael et HaShabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. עולם, אותי לעולם, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני
את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
וביום השביעי שבת ויפש, שבת ויפש, שבת
ויפש, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, שבס, את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
יתקדש שמך,
אמן. בחייכם יומכם ובחיי דרכו בית ישראל, בגלה בגלה ובזמן קריב. אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם עולם מעלמיה יתברך.
יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה שמים ושם
בריחו
לימים כל ברכתה ושירתה
תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמא. Amen. At this time we rise and face the ark for the quiet Amidah for Shabbat evening. It's on page 35b, page 35b. This is a private prayer, so you can pray the words that are on the page and whatever's in your heart. And when you're finished with your own prayers, you may be seated, and we'll get back together in just a couple of moments. 35b. Shalom Imroma, Hu Yaseh Shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Israel le'imru. Amen. Yaseh Shalom. Aleinu kol Israel. Amen. Amen. Oseh Shalom. Shalom Imromam. Hu Yaseh Shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Israel ve'imru. Amen. Yoshvei Tevel. Amen. We conclude the Amidah with the Kaddish Shalem on page 48. Page 48. Amen. Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevorach, Leolam Olam Le'olmaya Yitbarach. Brichu. Amen. 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 Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imeru. Amen. In a moment, we are going to begin to end our service, and we do that with the prayer Aleinu on page 51. But first, I have to call up Chad and Mark Fredkove, who are cousins of Ella's, who are going to do us the honor of opening the ark for Aleinu. So Chad and Mark, make your way this way. As we instruct all of our helpers, they slide, they don't pull out this way. For everyone else, we're on page 51. Please rise and face the ark. Shabeach Ladon HaKol, Latei Gedula Liotzer Breshit, Shelo Asanu Kogoye Haratzot, Velo Samanu Kamishbechot Adama, Shelo Sam Chelkenu Kahem, Vegor Aleinu Kechol Hamonam, Vanaknu Korim, Umishtakavim umodim, Lifnei Melech, Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Shehu Notei Shemaim Yosef Haaretz. תורתך אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו As the ark is closing, you may be seated. Even as we gather together in joy, we always, at this part of our service, pause for a moment of solemn honor, remembering those who are no longer with us. Here at Pasadena Jewish Temple and Center in the coming week, we are marking the Yahrzeit, that is the anniversary of the passing of Abraham Fishman, Ann Reif, Ann Surface, Annie Lou Brown, Arthur Philip Miller, Barbara Cohen, Clara Klein, David Rosenblum, Dolores Schwamm, Donald Alderman, Edmund Rohrman, Elizabeth Makel, Emmanuel Scher, Fred Schwartz, Gloria Spicer, Harry Orme, Jeffrey Skolnick, Josephine Tobias, Julius Goodman, Julius Spielberg, Larissa Rosenzweig Klein, Lester Gersh, Lillian Cohen, Mildred Reff, Paul Mosier, Philip Zabin, Phyllis Costell, Phyllis Ledeen, Rachel Ginsberg, Rebecca Scharf, Sam Marion, Saul Hofstadter, Solomon Zwerdling, Stephen Levander, Thomas Schulman, and William Leonard Cohen. Also, our community is in mourning at this time for the loss of longtime member Maury Weiss, beloved husband of Arlene, father of Linda, Jeff, Stevie, and Ted, and Beth, brother of Diane Lewis, grandfather of Jordan, Brenna, Natalie, Alexis, James, Matthew, Theo, and Ian. Maury passed away on Saturday, November 27th. There will be a private family service. We pray that Maury's memory always be a blessing. Hamakom Yenachem, may God comfort and strengthen Maury's family at this time. I'll ask that if you're in mourning for anyone or observing a Yahrzeit this week, please rise and join us in the Kaddish Tome, the Mourner's Kaddish, on page 52. Page 52. Let's pray together. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, ba'alma divra kirute v'yamlich malchute, b'chayechon uvyomechon uvchaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabba mivorach le'olam v'lalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekudsha brihu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Those of you who are standing may be seated. Before we wrap up the service, we have a few bright points of celebration for our friend Ella. There's several presentations on behalf. You know you got gifts at this thing? There are several presentations on behalf of members of our community. That's the USY, our youth group. The Sisterhood has something for you, and so does the Men's Club. And we are going to start, we're going to connect by Zoom with Sam Svanken, who has some words of honor on behalf of our United Synagogue Youth Group. We have Sam in the waiting room there. There we go.
Mazel tov, Ella. As was said previously, my name's Sam, and I'm here on behalf of the USY board. Let me start off by saying you did incredible tonight. USY was a way for me to meet a loving and accepting group of people while connecting with other Jews. Then all of this was during super fun events that are some of the best times I've ever had. But all of that is leading to what I'm here for tonight, which is to give you this, which is a Behol Echad. It's a songbook used for Sloach and Ruach at USY events. Sloach is this calm, sort of melodic singing that usually happens towards the end of events, while Ruach is possibly the loudest, energy-filled, chaotic scream singing I've ever heard. It was very nice seeing you at our Friendsgiving event in November. I hope I can see you again for our ice skating event on the 9th of January, during our puppy party on Sunday, where we will be having a pen of puppies for USYers to play with in preparation for finals to de-stress a bit. You did amazing tonight, and I know you'll do amazing tomorrow. Mazel tov.
Yes, Shakok. Thank you, Sam. I'm going to ask Emily, is there an age limit on USY events? Can I play with puppies? Doesn't apply to grad school finals? Okay, never mind. No, without further delay, I'd like to call on Judy Callahan, who is also joining us through Zoom, for a gift and words on behalf of our sisterhood.
Ella, I think we have it now. When I first met your family, when you joined B'nai Simcha many years ago, one of the things that struck me is you were a great family. And by that I meant the joy your family took from each other. Your family loved being together. You all had a great sense of humor. Obviously, there was an appreciation for art and music in your family. But you really just liked being together. And I was thrilled to read that one of the things you wrote in the Flame as you became a bat mitzvah, and it was describing you to the congregation, is that one of the best things about school this year is that you and Sadie can have lunch together. And I think that says a lot about the joy your family takes from each other. And when we were with your family, that joy is contagious. That love you share is contagious, and it's fun to be with your family. You are doing a beautiful job tonight. I know tomorrow is going to be wonderful. On behalf of Sisterhood, I want to officially welcome you as an adult into the Jewish community. We are thrilled you and your family are part of our PJTC family, because I said that joy just emanates to everyone who comes in contact with you. Somewhere there should be a Kiddush cup, a box with a Kiddush cup in it. We hope that every time you make Kiddush using this cup, you remember the joy. There it is. You remember the joy tonight, the warmth tonight, and all the love we bring you tonight. We are thrilled to be part of your simcha. Mazel tov.
Thank you. Thanks.
Koa, Judy. And now, last but not least, I'm going to call up Sean Surface, who's not on the Zoom. He's in the room, and he's going to make a presentation on behalf of our men's club.
You? Hi. Hi, Ella, I'm Sean. So whenever somebody takes a piece of paper out, I go, oi. First of all, I actually want to say that my grandmother's yahrzeit was tonight, and Ann Surface, and she would have been 107. So imagine what she would think of today, of having our clergy led by women, having a bat mitzvah, b'nai mitzvah, a girl, things that she didn't have in her life. And she saw, of course, my sister get bat mitzvah, but that was the first girl that she saw get bat mitzvah. So I forgot it was my grandmother's yahrzeit tonight. So when I heard that kind of made me think of a lot. Okay. Ella, of course, I'm very impressed by your work up here at the Bima, but I gotta say I'm a lot more impressed by your political skills. I hear that you have cats and rats cohabitating. Anyone who can do this shows true skills in peaceful leadership. A rabbi once said, "Blessed are the peacemakers." You are a blessed peacemaker. So the men's club is a support to the temple, and in particular to the youth groups such as USY and the religious school and the preschool. And that's what I like to think about when I'm giving you the yad, is support. As you know, the yad is used so that your finger doesn't touch the Torah, leaving oils that will cause the ink to smear or pages to disintegrate. So it supports your hand. So when I see the yad, it reminds me of support, like the support you have right now at the Bima with the clergy and the support of all your family. So yes, tomorrow you're going to use the yad to do your parsha, do your haftorah, but in the future, I want you, because you won't be using this every single day, but you'll see it every once in a while and you'll go, what is that? Oh yeah, that was my yad. You can think of that as a remembrance of all the support that's around you. So, okay, so Mazel Tov, Ella. By the way, the last time I presented yad, I told everybody that my daughter said that the only thing that she remembered about getting the yod was this old man. Oh, I was supposed to take this off, wasn't I? It was an old man with a beard. So I'm the old man with a beard. All right, Mazel Tov.
Yeshikoah, thank you, Sean. And now we are about to, Cantor, did I forget anything? I think we're good. So we're gonna end this service as we began, and that is in joyful song. And so I'm gonna ask everybody to rise, because singing feels better when you're standing up. And while you're doing it, I'm gonna ask the family to come up here, Sadie and Noah and Emily, and I named the grandparents, but there are so many of them. So come on, family, whoever wants to be here for Kiddush, come on up.
And let's join together.
Odivo shalom aleinu, Odivo shalom aleinu, Odivo shalom aleinu ve'akulam. Odivo shalom aleinu, Odivo shalom aleinu, Odivo shalom aleinu ve'akulam. Salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam. Salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, shalom. Odivo shalom aleinu, Odivo shalom aleinu, Odivo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Odivo shalom aleinu, Odivo shalom aleinu, Odivo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, shalom. Salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, shalom. Good Shabbos, everybody. So if you stick around for just a second, we're going to make Kiddush up here on everybody's behalf. Cantor and I have some yain, but I think there's a cup over there too.
Ella, you can take off your mask.
So we'll take care of the singing for this part, but make sure Ella gets the big cup tonight.
The little gift cups are for everyone else.
And it's just juice. You're 13. You're not 21.
You'll hold it outside.
And what's going to happen is we're going to make Kiddush on everybody's behalf up here, and then we have some juice and some challah outside as well. So whenever you go outside and schmooze, everybody gets to participate, okay?
Okay. If you're ready, let's. Ella, you're there. I can't see you. Okay. Good job.
ויער ויבוקר יום השישי, ויהולו השמיים בארץ, וכל צבאם, ויחל אלוהים ביום השביעי, מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישבות ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה. ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי, ויקדש אותו, כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו, אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei
פרי הגפן,
Baruch atah Adonai
אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו ורצבנו, ושבת קודשו באהבה וברצון הנהילנו, זיכרון למעשה בראשית, כי הוא יום תהילה למקראי קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנהלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת לכם. All right, I'll do some quick hand washing on everybody's behalf here. Get my washing cup. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu mitzvotav v'tzivanu al netilat yadayim.
Amen. And last but not least, we have a challah. If we can go back to Ella's screen. There's a challah cover. Oh, you guys need to do the same thing. Phenomenal. Take the challah cover away from the challah. Whee! Look at the challah. And let's do it together.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem
Take
Amen.
a piece. You can put it down, Mom, and Dad can help you. Make sure that it doesn't fall, because it's, yeah. And tell me, is it good?
Big bite, big bite.
Yeah, it's good.
Good Shabbos, everybody. We will see you all outside. Mazel tov, and thank you to the Moss family for sharing this simcha with us.